Sunday. I'm still waking up, but I wanted to get this video out, and well, it's still fresh in my head. So this will be part one per se of E85 flex fuel tuning. Like I said in the past, I really wanted to do the just straight E85, but after looking at all the benefits and everything, and that the tuning itself, well, the benefits, but the tuning itself wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I figured I would need more time, more learning, but after triple reading Cobb's guide and checking around the rest of the internet, I realized that it really isn't that bad. And it really only took me a day or two to go through everything and figure it out and get it up and get the car running all the way to wide open throttle pulls within a day or two. So again, this is my opinion, my version, my way of doing it. Right or wrong as it is, it's working. I still have a lot more tuning, a lot farther to go. Nowhere near complete. If I wanted to go out and take this car to the track, it would not be ready. At least I wouldn't trust it. But the car is running, and I can do polls and be right within my variances that I need to be. So this is going to be a long video. I'm probably not going to make any edits. So if you see me stand up or stretch or get a drink or something like that, I'll try to edit those big parts out. But it's hard to really capture the computer screen and me on video at the same time and sync them together properly when I make all these different edits. But either way, I don't want to lose strain from what I'm trying to say here, so I want to get it all cut in one video. So Cobb AccessTuner Flex Fuel Tuning Guide version 1.1. As you can see over here, April 2nd, it's constantly being updated. They're adding new things as they go. I think 2016 is when it came out for my car, so it's been out for a little while. So the information should be pretty well filtered through and taken out what's needed and what's not needed. So I'm going to pretty much go through this whole entire guide and kind of show you what I did to make the changes into AccessTuner and how that can apply to you. So in the beginning, it's got some good information, stuff that you can read. It basically says what flex fuel is, what we're going to use, what we're not going to use, the implementation of it, the different things like that. So I definitely read the beginning intro part. Some more resources here. Injector Dynamics did have a nice article on E85. That's a good thing to read. The DS Sports one didn't apply too much to me exactly, but it's got some good information. And like they said, you can always call Cobb with any help. I have not yet had the chance to speak to anybody at Cobb. I haven't ran into any issues big enough, but I mean, they're there if they need it. That's wonderful. So the first part of it is understanding the difference between ethanol and stoichiometric ratio, as it states here. This to me was a basic guide. I didn't use much information here, to be completely honest. It did help, but all I really cared about was the ethanol content of 0 and the percentage of what it's at from E10, and the ethanol percentage of 100% and how much percentages it is over E10. The rest of the stuff in the middle, I guess, are just there for calculation, for proof, for points. I mean, I might have to come back and use this table later as I do more tuning. But as far as this goes, I only use those two numbers. And I believe it does state here, they want you to use the gas scale of lambda, but I did not. I stuck with the regular standard unit of AFR. It's easier for me to read. I don't have to use lambda enough to actually look into it. But as long as you apply these percentages, the number will stay the same as far as the spit out, because really E85 is about 30% more fuel, and that's a pretty accurate number over regular gasoline. So if that conversion is done right, you don't have to mess with lambda going into that side. But if you know about it, they suggest it and go with it. It does not matter throughout the rest of the guide which one you choose. It's just for you in the case in the end of it. This wonderful little diagram here about the horsepower and what you should be using. Right now I'm sitting around the 400 horsepower mark. I guess I didn't have to click that. Around the 400 horsepower mark from my virtual dynos, I would assume. So at a stock fuel pressure regulator, it's telling me I need 1300 cc, which is probably true because little information since I've already been tuning the car. I hit about 82% injector duty cycle on E60. So if I actually had real E85 in the car, I probably would have maxed out the injectors or gone beyond their capacity. So that's a good recommendation. Now that's based on my mods and what I'm doing in my tuning. The car is very rich right now, so I can probably squeeze a little bit percentage out from there and probably get to E70 and still be okay, which would be perfect. So that is definitely my next purchase or my next upgrade, is to get bigger injectors just to alleviate that. I was doing the same thing before. I had 1050X's. I threw those bad boys in with the top feed and rails, and I was running injector duty cycle 60 all day long in my previous setup with 93 gas. So I like to have that variance in play in case I need it. So I want the same situation here. I'll look into the whole fuel pressure regulator too as an option. Right now it seems to be okay with just a stock one, but we'll go from there. So initial setup. There's probably two initial setups they give you. I like the second one better because it goes into a little bit more tire view, so you get a better look at it. But this one kind of details some of it. So you're gonna have the ethanol content sensor analyzer, and you're gonna have the fuel pressure sensor. Those are the two main things. Buy that kit. Don't buy the separate ones, or just buy the ethanol content analyzer. Also get the fuel pressure sensor. Haven't really needed to use a fuel pressure sensor, but it will be there if I need it. It's also good to know your fuel pressure and how everything's running, but it will make a difference tuning once you start to upgrade. So basically you're gonna tie in the fuel pressure sensor and I'm just calling it the E85 sensor into the TVG systems. So you got to make sure you have a TVG delete on this car, or at least have those unplugged. You're gonna get those tied in. Again, that part was really easy. Let's see. Approximately size fuel system components for maximum ethanol content desired. Estimate the change. Okay. So yeah, like I said, you need to have definitely a better fuel pump, specifically one that can handle E85. I have the 255 Walboro. It's not rated for E85, but there's hundreds of people on the internet that have been running it for 5+ years in E85. So for now, it'll be okay for the couple months or so I'm going to use it. With the injectors I'm going to buy, I'm also going to get another fuel pump rated for E85. So we'll worry about that later. Same thing, the fuel pressure sensor would be hooked up to your TVG systems, and of course wideband. You always need to have a wideband no matter what you're doing. Through all my stuff I've always stated a wideband is the most important thing you need to get. I will also add in that at this point an EGT, or an exhaust gas temperature sensor, should be something I recommend as well. At this point there's so many changes to the car, and to get the most benefit of the car, the most power from the car, you need to know those temperatures so that you can see if you're going beyond or you're under what you should be looking for. That's kind of like a system or a number that can tell you if your car if you can give your car more power, if your car can make more power. Now if that's the case, you may be limited by something to make that power, but at least you can kind of be like, okay, my temperatures are only at 1,000 degrees or something. I can squeeze that number out a little bit. So those two things I would start looking at implementing. Blending ratio. Let's see. This just gives you some basic math. Reads through. It tells you about blending. Blending is just kind of like the speed density, like I said before when I covered part of that. At map sensor 30 and above, it'll start blending in the fuel to the speed density. Same concept here. You have 0 ethanol and you have 100 ethanol on this side. It's going to start blending by a percentage. In the stock form of the map, it's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, all the way up to 1. Ethanol sensor does run at a 1-to-1 ratio, so that's why we have the 1 in the end. So if look at some of the tables here. These are some of the fuel-based tables to use a linear blend. Now they're going to use the terms linear and nonlinear a lot here. Linear blend just means E0 to E100, and that basically is stating that you want the table itself to be able to read that full that full gap, that full scope. Reason for that is because it's mostly going to be based on the fuel or the type of fuel that you're going to be, or the content of the ethanol that you're going to be putting through it. You don't want your fuel injector scale to show like E20 but not be able to compensate for E15, so you have to use that full scale to be able to do that. So the first things that we look at with that is coming from my tune, converting to the CCF tune in AccessTuner. So I'm just going to pull this up really quickly. I want to go into this part kind of second. But if we go over fuel injector scale, blending ratio. So let's see, primary ignition. So you're going to see, I gotta find the right table. So closed loop fueling target compensation is going to be, a 0 to 100%. That's pretty much what it's going to look like. I'll cover those other tables that I just showed here when we get back to them. So when you look at the tables and their blending ratios, you want to make sure that I'm getting a little lost. Alright, fuel injector scale. Yeah. So when you adjust the fuel injectors, which we'll talk about here in a second, that's what it means. Okay. So these are the main things that you want to keep at the 0 to 100. You don't want to edit those top tables, and we'll show you that part when I get there. So it comes down to properly scaling these tables from the beginning of the calibration process will allow you to easily convert an existing tune to a flex fuel capable. So like I was saying, if you have a 93 tune and you throw on the CCF tune that we have here and you load it up, it's going to tell you that it's going to do a conversion process. For me, it actually took everything and converted it automatically for me. I should say converted, just moved the tables into the proper new tables for me. So I didn't have to do a lot of this conversion or moving of the table. So in this case, they do have, I believe, flex fuel copy groups here. So that kind of covers everything as far as moving it over. So just basically a quick look at like fuel injector scale. Let's see, fuel injector scale under the blending. So that's where it was. It was lost. So 0 to 100. You want to keep certain parameters or certain adjustable fields here, or tables, at the 0 to 100 mark, because again, like I said, you want your fuel scale to be able to read outside your certain parameters. So that's one thing I looked at. When you set your fuel injector scale for A and B, which I'll get to, you set your A, which is your stock or 93 in my case, tune, to actually 10% lower, so E0. But because of this fuel injector scale, it can scale that properly for you. So I haven't had to mess with the fuel injector scale yet. So far the car is outputting the proper stuff. I just have to adjust my speed density tune. So let's get back to this real quick. Determining multiple values for high ethanol content, so group A and B. So here's where we're going to start making those actual changes to the map. Yeah, read through this a few times. I'll go into and explain it the way I see it. When you're looking at the flex fuel side, you're going to have three main tables that you're going to look at. Is the flex fuel table's blending ratio, the group A, and the group B. As a stock form of the map, group A is going to be your low end tune, or your 93 tune, your E10 tune. That'll be your basic tune, the one that you already have set up before we did all this, most of the time. And group B will technically be your 100 or your E100 tune, or your E80 tune, or whatever. There's different ways of going about this. I'm going the long way. What I hear most people do is they tune group A at 93, they dump the fuel out of the car, they run it dry, and then they basically fill the car up with E85, that's pure E85, or E60, whatever tune they're going for, and then they tune group B at that part, and then they let the blending happen. That's definitely one way of doing it. That's probably the best way of doing it, but we don't always have the best ways. So that's basically what it's saying here. What you need to do to prepare for that is to set up your injector scale, because that's the most important thing. If your car is not running or turning on or starting or cranking, or your fuels are off because your scale's off, well, this is the first thing we need to address. So back at that table we looked at up here, this is the two important things. We need to care about this number here and this number here, because those are the injector scale numbers we're going to use. So in the guide they do state on the high end to use where is it at? The 1.561%. If you look at the guide or the table here, it shows 156.9%, not the 151. So I don't know if that was just something they need to update in their guide. I did not use that number at all. I did not stick with that number. To me, it didn't seem right. So I stuck with the number in the table. That what I'd be able to assume was the thing they actually look at and see if they need to update it versus a bunch of words. So the first thing you would do is jump over to your tune here, open this up, fuel injector scale. Now my number showed what my E10 or my normal tune was. You then click on it, hit multiply, and like they stated here, it would be 96.1. Convert that to decimal, you just move the decimal over 2 to the left, so it's 0.961. So you just pop in 0.961 and hit enter, and that will drop down to E0 for you. And then you would come down to fuel table group B, click here, and again I've already done it, multiply, and in this case 156.9%. So we move the decimal over, 1.569, enter, and that will do the conversion to E100 for you. Those were actually pretty darn spot on. I could probably change the injector scale by a few numbers to get a little bit closer to where my AFRs are, but I'm just going to use my speed density table to make those final changes. So back to this guide here. With those changed, that will get you kind of started on the fuel side. The guide basically tells you exactly what I just told you, so you can take a look at it. Again, as you look through this, there is some DIT engine as well mixed in, so make sure if you're doing this for a direct injection engine that you pay attention to that. So next set of tables that we're going to look at is your octane based tables. These are the tables that you're going to use for power. And this is where you get to control what percentage of E85 you want that power to hit on. So I went with the basic stuff. If you pull up their photo here and you zoom in a little bit, they used E20 to E70. So that's kind of what I started with. Let me resize this real quick. Again, read through this, but basically it's saying that you want to choose a certain percentage of E content that you want the car to start blending at, and then you want a final number that you want it to hit, or that you've tuned on in this case. So as we go through here, this gives you a few recommended tables. Let's just start with like boost target and boost limits. So we'll go up to the blending ratio. So boost targets and boost limits. So again, I basically just started with 20 and then put in 70 here, and then did an interpolation of the numbers, which went by fives, and set me up for where I need to be set up. Now, I have seen some people do lots of different things here. One of the few photos and guides that one of the few things that I saw people do with ethanol was state at 50% ethanol, they set this to all 1. So I didn't really see much of a smoothing factor here, but basically once I saw E50, or once they set the car at E50, it basically ran through the whole blending thing and just jumped straight to full power at that point. I guess E50 was enough for the full power for the car. Now, I'm not going to go that far yet. I'm going to keep the blending all the way up to E70 just to be safe as I tune the car. But that's just the variances you can make to your car after you've done this initial tuning. So go through, make the adjustments here. That's all I did myself. I adjusted these few tables that you see right here. Again, they basically state the same fact of look at these tables, make these adjustments. Let's see. Download individual converter, yes. To power the sensor, that works great. There is some custom codes. You'll get those set up. I don't know if you'll do it here. When you install the ethanol content sensor and the fuel pressure sensor, you'll input that information in using Cobb's guide at the same website here. There, at the bottom of it, there's some calibration data you have to input into AccessTuner, so don't forget to do that. Some dead ranges to make sure you're good there. Failsafes, polling kit. So these are basically just letting you know that there's other parameters if yours is not working right, or if you need to make more adjustments because you got an 800 horsepower car or something, you need to make more adjustments. There's all kinds of different ways to make those adjustments. So this is the guide that I kind of looked at and I liked. It was really quick and to the point. So the first thing you want to do is basically enable it. So back here we have that activation feature. So in my case, I'm using A for low and B for high. So basically E10 on A, E100 on B. Set it as 1 to enable it. Pretty specific, or pretty simple there. Enable the flex fuel code of functionality activation type. Okay, yep. Copy all the data, which we already talked about earlier. You don't really need to do that if you converted it. Configure the ethanol sensor, activation table, ethanol calibration table. So ethanol sensor, calibration. So obviously from here you need to choose what sensor you used it for. In my case, I followed Cobb's guide specifically, so it was ethanol sensor is there on the left because it's the shortest cable, and TGV sensor on the passenger side of the right because the fuel pressure cable was long. Simple, right? Calibration. This already came preset because I'm assuming you buy their kit. Why not have your information preset based on the kit you sell? So this was already preset for me, and here's just other factors that you can adjust. Yeah, so the thresholds here and stuff, I did follow these adjustments too. So the thresholds, 0.5 to 4.5 volts was the range. So I did exactly what they said. I did a 0.30 on the low limit and 4.70 on the high limit when you set those codes. So 4.7 and 4.3. I didn't mess with any of these yet, didn't have to, but I did follow the directions to set those, and that will basically just throw a Cobb code. They made a custom code in the software and when you flash it to kind of give you an idea of what specifically is wrong. I think there's a Cobb 1, 2, 3, and 4 code, just to make sure your sensors are staying within the range they need to be. Basically same thing, boost control. So it does cut boost and it does lock it at the last known good value. So there's some safety factor in there. Really, really good stuff. Let's see, solve the tables, we did that part. Set the blending ratio tables, so that's those ones we looked at for the octane based ones as well. Perform calibration, yes, let's see, copy groups, we did all that. Change vehicle to high ethanol to follow calibration. So yes, this is if you're doing the whole tune on 93, empty car, tune on 100 or whatever. So we're not really doing that right now, we're doing this on the road. Restart vehicle to cycle fuel, yes. Reset blending ratio to lock in B table. Perform calibration, blah, 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 cool. Alright, so that pretty much covers it as far as that part goes. Yes, failsafe. Yeah, so this is a thing, but this has been a known thing for a lot of different things that people and sensors that use the TVG system. If you are going to use the TVG wire, you're no longer reading through what's going on. You're actually sending voltage through, kind of like you would when the TVG sensor was set up. But I guess Subaru had some circuitry or something to protect it per se, or they knew nothing would happen. But since we're adding in a third-party component, I guess things can go wrong. So if your ethanol sensor does some reason short out and send an 8 volts through it, it might damage your ECU. It's very possible. Now what I did, on my car, I actually installed a relay and put a fuse in the relay for I think it was 7.5 or 5.5, the conversion to it. So I can't remember exactly which one I put in there. So that's my setup when I did the TVG for my AFR sensor. In this case, I'm not doing that right now. I just followed Cobb's guide and plugged it in directly. So this could actually do the damage, but as long as you install properly, follow the recommendations. I'm sure Cobb bought quality components, and you're paying $800 for this kit. That you shouldn't have too much of an issue with this. So let's see, tables. Okay, so this is actually where I saw I saw it. So as you can see here, they did a blending up to 50, E50. Basically, car runs normal all the way to E50. E50 it starts to blend. At E50 1.1, you get full power to the car. I'm assuming that's where we'll all get to when we're done tuning. I'm not really sure if that's not like a kill mode kind of setup or not, but that could be something that we all get to at the very end. Or maybe it's just for the wastegate duty cycle and not for timing. That's the great thing about all these different tables that Cobb gave you. You can make all these different type of adjustments. This video is getting a little longer than I wanted, but that's fine. Let's see. Blending ratio tables. Let me zoom back out again. Ethanol content delay system. I didn't mess with this too much, but I guess basically what it states is some cars have a returnless system, so fuel is in line, basically like a straw as you're sucking out of a cup. When you're sucking the drink out of the cup, the stuff at the bottom of the straw still has to get to your mouth, so the flavor could change by the time it gets there. So there's a delay on that system to make sure that everything's proper. On my car, and I guess cars around the same years and stuff like that, even newer cars, I believe most of our Subaru STIs have a return system. So fuel is constantly being cycled through at all times. So as the car's idling, it's constantly getting new type of fuel. It's not stuck with the fuel waiting to be used. Like the injectors aren't spitting out really slow at idle, and then that fuel is just slowly coming to it, and when you gun it, that fuel in the back still has to get to it and stuff like that. So our cars should be fine with this. More about the sensors, keynotes, read through that part. Let's see, fine tuning, fuel trims, things like that. Yes. Troubleshooting flex fuel rated custom DTCs. Okay, there's more information about that. Your low inputs, your high outputs, great. This basically just goes over what we talked about earlier about setting up your low and high inputs. This is what happens if you get a certain voltage. It tells you here. Here's for the fuel pressure, same thing. Max safe ethanol content. So there's a Cobb 5, okay, and the map parameter. So what? I mean, that's it. The guide's a pretty easy breeze through. We talked about it in about a half an hour. I do want to go back and cover the guide a little bit, show you what I did. We'll go through and expand these. So blending ratio, I followed Cobb's guide pretty much. AVCS 20 to 70, boost 20 to 70, boost targets 20 to 70, flex fuel full as it's supposed to be, primary ignition 20 to 70, primary open loop 20 to 70. I didn't touch any of the tip in yet. I gotta get to all that part. So following Cobb's guide, everything worked out pretty good. Group A, remember, is my 93 tune. When you come over to Group B, which is supposed to be your high octane tune or your E85 tune, everything is the same. My primary ignition table here matches my Group A table, my 93 table. I have not made any power adjustments to the car until I get the fueling leveled out more. Right now I got some dips where I'm at 9 AFR and some high ends where I'm at 11.9 AFR. I won't show you all that stuff, there's so much information about it, but just to know that my first initial flash, my first initial wide open pull, there is some differences that I have to go out there and make some adjustments to. I do recommend at this point, there's probably been so many changes to your car, that you actually redo your load compensation table. Let's see, load comp. So this table, this is my fault. I haven't done it in a while. I probably made 4 or 5 part changes to the car that you're supposed to do this table on. I kind of forgot about it, but you need to adjust this load compensation table after all these different changes we're doing. So what I'm going to do after I make this video right now is go out and drive the car for an hour or two, get as much data as I can, and recalculate this table here. Just pretty much Google it. I think ROM Raider has a bunch of guides on it. The few guides that I've talked about in the past, if you have them and found them, they got that information in there for you there. Let's go back to our tables here. Make sure I cover anything else. Flex fuel. Alright, yeah, so there is some information about these hot restarts, these cranking fuel things here. You can make these adjustments. Some people are saying under 68 coolant you want to increase fuel by like 30% or so, 1.3. There's different things that you do based on where you're located. Me in Florida, my car starts right up. I mean, I don't have any issues. It never gets to 68 degrees. Well, it rarely gets to 68 degrees, so I'm not too concerned on that. I might have to worry about the hot restart situation, but right now the car's been starting no problem. Starts right away. Let's see. That's pretty much it, really. I want to try and talk as much as I can and cover as much as I can. When you start getting into tuning this stuff, keep it small, keep the increments small, don't go for the big stuff. Yes, you can tune past best timing and stuff like that, so you have to be careful about that. You can over tune your car now with E85 itself. You can over boost your car, make sure you're using the turbo efficiency tables correctly. If you have a good name brand turbo, you should have that wonderful looking table that does the whole like balloon type thing, and make sure you're following the efficiency of it. Don't go out of its range. You're not doing too much good for yourself there. Tip and enrichment I know was going to have to be adjusted, so that's going to be something you're going to have to focus some time on. I think I'm running pretty rich. I think I've talked about that in the past video. I'm running more rich now, so I have to look that into a little bit more. Really, that's about it. It's actually not as difficult as I thought it would be. It was a pretty, yeah, here's the fuel pressure stuff. So the calibration again was already set for me. So like I said, it wasn't that bad of a conversion. I pretty much followed exactly everything Cobb said here, listened to everything they did, and modified the tables that they said, and maybe a few that I needed to do for my car. Went out and took it for a drive, and the car ran as if I never even installed this thing at all. I had about just under a quarter tank when I started this in 93. I went to Harbor Freight, bought a 5-gallon gas tank, filled that up with E85. I had to drive an hour or 40 minutes to wait at the E85 station. I know there's closer ones, I just can't find them because I never looked for them yet. I then started dumping the E85 as I had the car running, and I watched the ethanol content jump. With 5 gallons and whatever was in the car, maybe 3 or 4 gallons, I got about to E42 or something like that. I then took the car up for a drive to make sure everything was good. I felt comfortable enough. I drove to the gas station. I then filled the car up the rest of the way with E85. I guess that the specific fill up, the E content was pretty low at this gas station, so I only got to about E62, and then actually leveled out to about E57. So either the 93 really makes that big of a difference, or that content at the gas station was pretty low, which is fine because, like I said, I can only really use E60 because of my injectors. And I also filled up the gas tank again with E85, so that's something I have to get used to. fill up the car, fill up the gas tank. Always have 5 gallons sitting around just in case. Although that's just me thinking, because I have the flex fuel kit, I can go and get 93 anytime I want and not have to worry about anything. With that being said, I do recommend that you fill up your car with 93 and run 93 through the car every 5 to 10 fill-ups of ethanol. That's just what the internet pretty much has come to the conclusion of, that our cars, all the parts weren't built for E85, so you want to cycle through some regular fuel to clean things up, I guess. I'll stick to that maybe every 5 to 10 fill-ups. Don't let E85 sit in your car for too long. I can never remember how to say the dang word, but it absorbs water, so you want to be careful on that. Yeah, I mean, that covers pretty much everything. I'll make some videos of me getting into the finer parts of the tuning and some of the power that I made and show you that, but this should get you started on E85 and get your car up and running. I hope so. I hope everything works out for you and that I relayed all the information properly. So have fun, enjoy, be safe, double check everything, and let me know if there's, put any comments in the bottom of the video if there's anything that I missed or I can improve on, or if I said it all right, or you have any questions. I can always help out the best I can. So until the next video, see ya.